Australia in the house. Joseph, how are we, mate? Is it true that Trent's going to Real Madrid? Well, we're going to move on to that story now. You've segued me into it rather nicely, my friend, so thank you. The Times, who are, far from anything other than a top-tier newspaper, who don't really write twaddle, they've put out a piece, and in this piece it says, Carlo Ancelotti's solution at right-back is to pull Fede Valverde from midfield, while counting the weeks before Carvajal's crucial ligament is fixed, and here's the part that worries me, and looking forward to the likely summer arrival of Trent Alexander-Arnold. When you've got the Times writing that, an English paper, that's one of the first real signs to me that things are pointing in the direction of Trent leaving. Because up until now, we'd heard lots from Spanish papers, and, they're always going to be very Real Madrid friendly or very Real Madrid focused in their coverage. But this, coming from the Times, saying likely some arrival of Trent, I'd get the feeling that the club know this already. And if you couple this with the story we spoke about the other day that suggested that Trent might wait till see if we win the Prem and the Champions League before deciding, nah, that can't happen either. At this point, I'm probably 70-30 Trent leaves. But again, it's not based off anything because none of us know. But I would be more surprised at this point if he stayed than if he left. I feel like he's going. And I feel like I just want to rip the Band-Aid or the plaster off as a fan. Don't know how you guys feel about it, but I just wanted the decision on all of the three of them. Nick said, I've completely removed the contract odyssey / transfer fantasies from my mind, solely focused on the pitch. Everything else is secondary in my opinion. Beat Everton Football Club. I wish, Nick, that I could do that. And I think I've had this discussion with people before in Discord. I can't switch off from the contract situation. I can switch off from the summer transfer window, absolutely. But I can't switch off from the contract situation because I know it has the capability to undermine the season. And I just don't. The more I think of it, the more angry I get at the club for allowing this situation to develop. So, I fully respect where you're coming from. And as I said, I wish, mate, that I could... I don't know if I brought that up on screen or not for you, mate. Sorry, I'll do it now. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't switch. I can't compartmentalise one thing and just think about the other thing. It just doesn't work for me on this because everything just feels like I don't know what the future is. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if we are going to have to try to replace Mo. I've kind of come to peace with the Trent thing, whatever happens there. I'm almost expecting the worst with Trent at the minute. So, if he does stay, that'll be a pleasant surprise. Craig, it'll be weird seeing Trent on the bus if and when we do win the league and he does indeed leave us. Make no mistake about it. When he leaves and announces that he is, there will be a backlash. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it's right. But it will happen. And all the journalists in the world trying to make out like Liverpool fans will open their arms and applaud Trent's magnificent service to the club are deluding themselves beyond comprehension. Because he's dragged this out. And now, if he leaves, every single person is going to think that he dragged this out on purpose. And his mind was made up a long time ago. As I said, when it was becoming an issue, honesty and being upfront and announcing a decision is the way to go. If you don't do that and you drag it out and it ends up that he leaves, it's not going to be pretty. It just isn't. And there's no sugarcoating that for anybody. That's just the way it's going to be. You already hear people inside Anfield shouting down from the stands, if you're not here, if you don't want to be here, F off. If you're not going to try, F off. That's already happening now and he hasn't even announced he's going yet. Said, if Trent leaves, I don't think we need to go for a right back. Bradley is the best option there and Calvin Ramsey can emerge as a backup. I wouldn't be putting my faith in Calvin Ramsey until we see far more first team football, far less injuries. He's a long way to go. A long way to go before I'd be considering Calvin Ramsey. Now, Bradley, of course. Bradley will absolutely be the heir apparent. But you're still going to need another right back because you need to have two right backs in the squad. So The question would be, would you go for a more experienced right back, maybe somebody in the 27, 28 age bracket on low enough money because you know they're going to be a backup? Or, you know, do you spend money and then try to have somebody compete with Bradley? And I can't really see Liverpool going out and spending a load of money. Frimpong isn't a right back. Anybody who suggests Frimpong, I think that they don't know what they're talking about. There's nothing about Frimpong that suits the way we play. Nothing. The system we play doesn't suit Frimpong. The way our right back plays doesn't suit Frimpong. He's not a right back. He's a right wing back in that system. But he's more of an auxiliary right winger. So there's no chance in hell that works for us because he isn't a right back. It maybe would work at United or a club that plays the system at 3-4-3 or something like that, but not with us the way that we play. Do you rate Lamptey? Not enough that I'd want him at Liverpool, to be honest, no. He's a good footballer. Of course, you don't play in the Premier League if you're not a good footballer, but I wouldn't be ready to welcome him into Liverpool now. DD8ZX said, Craig, if Trent were to leave, then Bradley would be the number one, but Joe Gomez could be the backup. I'd be fairly certain we lose Joe Gomez in the summer. And I can't blame him. You know, would you stay if you were Joe Gomez? Because let's look at it. He's not got a sniff. And he's not going to nail down a starting position. And he's getting to the point of his career now where, you know, he's at the prime part of his career age-wise. And he's not going to want to sit in Liverpool's bench. And I feel like Arne Slot just doesn't fancy Joe in that way. It just doesn't think that he's going to be the guy. I love his versatility, and if we could keep him around, I absolutely 100% agree with you. It would be a no-brainer. Because with Joe Gomez, you get a right back, a centre back, a left back. You get somebody who can play right across the back line. So I 100% agree with you, but I just think from his perspective and what I'm hearing, I wouldn't be surprised to see Joe go in the summer. And I couldn't blame him either, because, you know, you'd never get angry at anyone that just wants to play football. And he hasn't got much of a chance in recent times to play much football with Liverpool. And I totally understand his perspective on it. Same with Kelleher. You know, these guys have one career. And if, you know, it's great being at a club like Liverpool, but if you're not getting enough minutes, especially as you get that little bit older, you want to look back in your career and think, yeah, I gave it as good a go as I can. And I played, most importantly. So I'd have no bad blood with Joe whatsoever if he decides he needs to move on, because I could understand it. Do you think all three sign if we do the treble? I think that any idea of allowing the contract situation to get that far into the season, it would be a level of stupidity that I didn't think we could comprehend as fans. Not from you, mate, sorry, I'm not having a pop at you. I mean, you have really dug yourself a hole if you haven't got the contract situation sorted by the end of the season. Because you've already going to be starting to talk to players to come in at that point. You want your transfer business in the works. And I know the club have a plan A, B and C, but at some point there has to be a line in the sand where we say we need decisions or an end game before X or Y. You couldn't let it go to the end of the season on the hope that you win a treble. And actually, weirdly, I feel like if I'm Trent, that probably leads me towards leaving more than anything, because you're thinking, right, I'm going out on a high. I know that sounds weird, but if I'm in his mind, that's probably what I'd be thinking. Go to Real Madrid, imagine you went off on the back of a treble. You couldn't sign off much better in that regard, but, you know, I'm just tired, frustrated, and confused by the contract situation, because somebody somewhere is being snidey, whether it's the club or the players or the agents. There's no justifiable reason that 3 contracts have dragged on this long. It has to be intentional. It has to be. And whether that's the club trying to drag it out because maybe they don't actually want them to stay, again, I'm not saying that's the case, I'm saying it's a possibility. Whether it's the agent hoping they can hang on for more money than they're currently being offered, it just makes no sense to me that you cannot get one done. I would say you could get Virgil done fairly straightforward for a reasonable fee if you wanted them to do it. Like, what do you think? Like, do you have any rational reason why the contracts are still dragged on? Like, remember, we were talking about this from when Jurgen announced his departure, pretty much. And now here we are, almost a year later, and nothing has changed. Not one of them have signed a new deal. Not one. That's ridiculous to me. And it has to be intentional.